We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Styles McKenzie helping you make those rooms sing. Today's style tip. When it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild, like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Arr, fierce. This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Good morning, Edmonton, the home of the Stanley Cup finalists, Edmonton Oilers. Hey, but you've heard enough about that. We're here to talk about basketball. This is the Basketball Show. I'm your host, Paul Sir. Ryan Reed and our special guest today, Avry Lewis. McDougall, Avry, good morning.
Back here again, Paul. Miss me, eh?
Well, we certainly did miss you. That's why we had to have you back. We had to get you back here. Ryan, how are you?
I'm good. No one misses me.
I didn't miss you at all.
We miss you, Ryan.
A little disappointed you showed up today, but I was gonna see if Avry could run the board today, but that's okay. You're here. We'll make do. Our text line 833-401-1440. 833-401-1440. Guys, I am just overflowing with stuff to talk about. There is so much to talk about, even though we're down to two teams, or one team for sure in the finals and two teams still duking it out. There is so much to talk about the playoffs directly, but also about all of the machinations around the game of basketball, the NBA, WNBA, CEBL. We've got so much to get into. So first, Ryan, give us a start with our poll question.
Over on X Basketball _show, we're asking what the result of the Knicks and Pacers series will be. Pacers in 6, Pacers in 7, or Knicks in 7. And I feel like it's a pretty intriguing line, especially with that convincing win from New York yesterday, or 2 days ago.
Well, I think you're right. I was texting back and forth with our frequent guest, Ben Golliver, and before the Knicks-Pacers game, I said, I have to go with the Pacers. You know, Towns might not play. They just don't have enough in the tank. But, well, they had more than enough in the tank. And, Avry, this is what surprised me the most. And we'll dive into it in our 3 from Deep in just a second. But real early exclamation would be, Tyrese Halliburton was all world. Epic, historical performance in Game 4. Absolutely evaporated in Game 5. Was that because of the Knicks putting him on his heels, or did he just have a bad night?
I would say it's a mix of column A and column B, because if you let Halliburton go off again, this series would have been over a long time ago. But I think the Knicks are trying to find a way to lock him down. And Knicks have proven again, they can be a very good team when they can, given a chance. And I love the fact that you're seeing now with the New York Knickerbockers, they're going into Indiana and getting wins. Like, home court advantage has not been a thing in the series, guys.
No, it hasn't. It really hasn't. And like a good comment, and we're going to get back to that in just a second. But I want to share with everybody about our show today, because it's a great one. Of course, having Avry in to rap with us is fantastic. We have Sean East II, leading scorer in the CEBL, and Aaron Rhooms from the Edmonton Stingers coming on in our third segment this morning. We have Alex Johnson, and Alex is a longtime member of Canada Basketball's FIBA 3x3 team, who were in Baku, Azerbaijan this past weekend and battled, won 3 games, and now they have propelled the Canadian men's team to accompany the Canadian women's 3x3 team to compete in the World Cup in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia at the end of June. So Alex is going to join us from Toronto. Let's go to 3 from Deep, which is presented by the 2025 Hoop City 3x3 Festival. We're 2 months away, July 31st to August 3rd in the Ice Palace in West Edmonton Mall. 4 FIBA events, count them, 4 top Olympic teams in the world coming here. Largest FIBA 3x3 event in North America. And we will be featuring our Canadian women who are the defending world champions, finished 4th in the Olympics, of course, and there's a lot of special stuff that's going to happen around that event that we'll share with you over the coming weeks. Real briefly, because we're going to touch on it in our third segment today. Last night, the Stingers lost to Vancouver, the 5-0 Vancouver Bandits, only the second team in CEBL history to start the season with 5 wins in a row without a loss. The other was the Edmonton Stingers, who went 7-0. I believe that was in 2021. Thank you. We knew we'd have the history right here with Avry at his fingertips. But a week ago, they lost by 30, and that wasn't even indicative of how much of a disparity there was in that game. Last night, Stingers came out, went down 11-0, came storming back, was a tight game, kind of lost it late third, early fourth, but in target time made it exciting in front of 3,300 fans. Great atmosphere, so loud. I have the privilege of being the color analyst for the Stingers, and Grayson and Sarah and I could barely hear ourselves because of the noise in the arena. So it was a great atmosphere, but we'll talk more about that. Let's go to the Pacers and the Knicks. Game 5. I'll start with you, Ryan. Were you surprised at the outcome of Game 5?
I'm going to say no. Like it feels like for the next season that they've had, to lose in 5 to a team like the Pacers just doesn't really make sense for how their year was projected to be. So I'm not going to say they're going to win the series. I'm not convinced to even win the one today. But it doesn't surprise me that they force it to 6. Like losing in 5 and 6, I think that's the gap between games where it's like it's convincingly lost, and 6 is where it's close. Like in my mind, if someone loses in 5 versus losing in 6, that's kind of the line within like, well, you weren't close to, you had
Timberwolves.
Yeah,
Timberwolves.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, they had their moment in the sun, blew out the Thunder in one game, lost by 2 in the next, absolutely melted into oblivion in the season. In the
Julius Randle included.
Oh,
Yep,
well, Randle and Ant. Ant was not a factor. Lou Dort, first team all defense. That guy can guard.
And Nickeil Alexander-Walker is actually like their best player at times for some of the games.
The emergence of Nickeil Alexander-Walker has been really something to see. He has really thrived in Minnesota. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but I'm going to go to you on this, Avry. Can the Knicks win in 7? Is this a team that is capable? Is Indiana capable of losing today, and are the Knicks capable of winning and winning the series?
Man, to blow a 3-1 series lead would be tough, but I do think New York finds a way to force a Game 7. From what I've seen from guys like Jalen Brunson, what I've seen from Karl Anthony Towns, the heart that this team has shown to me, I do think they can force a Game 7. The big thing is, now, can you win a Game 7? Historically, in the NBA, coming back from 3-1 down and winning a series doesn't happen. Like, that's a tough hill to climb, but I do think that there's enough in this team to at least force a Game 7, Paul.
I find that interesting. And by the way, New York City today named a street for the weekend after Jalen Brunson. And I'll tell you what, there is nothing not to love about Jalen Brunson. Undersized by NBA standards, not an elite athlete that we so often think is essential to being a successful NBA player, although all you have to do to dispel that is look at Nikola Jokic and Luka Doncic and say that ain't what it has to be, for sure. But Brunson, I don't know how you would measure his heart. Like, if you had one of the, like a graphic of a proportionate heart to how he plays, it would like encompass his entire chest and probably seep out from his rib cage, because his heart, his focus, his courageous, and I mean, maybe that's an overblown word, but I don't think so, because there is a place for the word courage in sports and fearlessness.
Well, even when he's not playing well and missing shots, you can still feel like his intent to put it all on the line.
His compete level, I love that term, because when I was a coach, the level of compete that you would look for in your athletes was something you couldn't measure statistically, but you could measure in terms of visually and impact wise and what it would have on the team and their teammates. His level of compete is off the charts. But Avry, what has surprised me in a good way has been that same level of compete finally coming out of Karl Anthony Towns, which I think we've all felt that Karl has fallen short of what his ability allows him to become. I think he has become what his ability allows him to be now because of his level of compete.
I agree. And it's funny because people were telling me, when he left Minnesota for New York, people were saying, can't handle playing in New York. I mean, he's from New York. Of course he can handle that. And we're seeing him take his game to another level, playing at home and being that big game guy.
Well, and I think it's an interesting thing because so often the greatness of a player depends on the team that he's on. Would Steve Nash have been, for instance, I mean, he was playing really well in Dallas with Dirk Nowitzki. That would have been a dynamic pair to have go through their careers together. But when Dallas decided to not keep Nash and he went over to Phoenix and he gets under Mike D'Antoni's 7 seconds or less offense, he not only, that's the reason he's the MVP, a Hall of Famer, and the reason why teammates around him, such as Amari Stoudemire, Bruce Diaw, thrived because of Nash's chemistry with them that was unleashed. And unleashing talent and potential, to me, is one of the greatest gifts that a coach can give an athlete. And I think Tom Thibodeau, who looks like a character from a Charles Dickens novel, the way he's got, like, I was talking to Kevin Carius yesterday on the show, and I was saying, can't you just see him on a street corner with a stovepipe hat and a scarf around, scowling at people, or sitting in the office chewing Scrooge out for putting an extra piece of coal into the furnace? But Tom Thibodeau and Karl Anthony Towns have found a way. And I think the fact that Jay Wright coached the Villanova guys, yes, the way he did, Josh Hart, DiVincenzo now with the Wolves, but of course Jalen Brunson, he prepared them for that kind of toughness. And man, have they ever responded, Ryan?
It's a fun team to watch just for the cohesion, as you mentioned. I don't know if there's a better starting five in the East. I think there's better teams in the East when everyone says, like, the Celtics, I think, are a better team. Mm-hmm. But just the cohesion of that five, the Nova guys plus Mitchell Robinson, even when he's in there, Karl Anthony Towns. It's an interesting watch just how they play together, and I think it's different than what you see in modern basketball today. I mean, like when everyone's like just going one-on-one, or it's a pick and roll, and there's no special actions, but they actually do special things.
I love that because I think there are, for the first time in a long time, Avery, yes, I think there are examples now that we can expand on finally that are going to transcend the huck and chuck three attitude towards playing the game, the one-on-one pick and roll only style of play. I think Brian makes a really good point about the Knicks combination. You've got teams now in the Final Four that all play distinct styles, don't we?
Yeah, they definitely do. And you mentioned the teams that the huck and chuck. I just hated seeing teams like the Houston Rockets go into elimination game, hucking up 45 threes and making only 7. I hate that style of basketball.
Same here.
See what the Knicks do as a total team game, solid ball movement. That to me is a throwback to a prior era, which I love, Paul.
Well, and I do too, because it works a heck of a lot better than this huck and chuck crap that the nerds in the basements, and I always harp on that, the analytics guys who what they haven't ruined the game. The idiots that listen to them have I think threatened the game and the structure, because there's a way to play basketball. The mid-range game is alive and well. All you have to do is look at the two best players in the playoffs, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jalen Brunson, and say, why don't you play like that and shoot the pull-up, for God's sakes?
You were just praising Steve Nash in 7 seconds or less, though.
I love 7 seconds or less, but they weren't all threes.
Yeah.
It
was threes and layups.
No, they weren't all threes and layups. They were everything in between. They had guys shooting mid-range shots because Nash would hit them. Nash was great at the teardrop. We got to carry this guy, Avery. We just got to help him along.
Teardrop is different than like a pull-up.
Teardrop isn't crying when you're watching the Backstreet Boys in a concert, Ryan, but
I mean,
a teardrop like a floater is different than a mid-range shot. That was my point.
I'm sorry, I'm really on a roll here, but I think though, I think what we're seeing is I believe a renaissance in the game. I mean, you talk about a great trade. A great trade was Karl Anthony Towns for Julius Randle, yes, and DiVincenzo to the Wolves, because all three players were bettered by the situations that they were in. I'm going to transition out right now. I want to talk a little bit about the Minnesota Timberwolves. I mean, they had a dreadful game 5. And, it would be easy to say if you didn't watch the game that, the team just folded. They just gave up. They just didn't think there was any way they could overcome OKC. I don't think it was that at all. I think they had a terrible game, partially because of themselves, but largely because OKC just came red hot and ready. And Lou Dort, I thought, Ryan, had a historical defensive performance against Anthony Edwards.
As a team, I think Lou Dort especially, but the team was just locking them down. By the end, I didn't know what the Timberwolves are really supposed to do. Like the stuff that's worked for them the entire playoffs and the entire regular season just didn't work anymore. You'd give it down to Rudy Gobert and it'd be 50-50 shots that he'd get a shot off, and he's a big guy. Mm-hmm. Julius Randle wasn't able to do anything that he was normally used to doing against the Lakers, and when he's down low, he had a couple moments again. Like he'll get a couple mid-range shots. He'll get a couple just bully ball. He'll bully, like he's a bigger guy than Jalen Williams is. But the teams, I talk about team cohesion.
Yeah,
and look at that.
Defense. Yeah.
Coincidentally, like both teams that have cohesion are in the conference finals, like the Knicks and the Thunder. But that team defense is just more prevalent now, and I think it'll create a better basketball product for the NBA moving forward.
I think it's a great point, and I think. I want to go back to a point you made, though, Avery, and that was on the way the Knicks move the basketball. Mm-hmm. The Timberwolves don't do a great job of moving the basketball. They rely so much on the dribble drive, whether it's Edwards, Randle. It disappoints me the most in Randle because, as you accurately described, Ryan, his strength is his strength.
Yep.
Back
to the basket.
Back to the basket, overwhelming his defender with his physical prowess, as opposed to breaking down a team like the Oklahoma City Thunder, who guards so well on the ball and on help side. And they smothered not just him, but even Anthony Edwards. The combination of Lou Dort's individual defense with the team concept, that was really special, I thought.
No, it was. And in this area of the NBA, if you limit a team in multiple games in a series to under 100 points, that's a really good thing. We saw OKC do it multiple times against the Timberwolves, and doing it as the youngest team in the league is even more impressive. That team average age is 25 years old. A team that young hasn't been to the finals since the Blazers in the 70s. Like, that is impressive that this team is that good, that defensive, and that young. Like, you don't see it in this area of basketball.
This is a special team. You're absolutely right, to your point. And you talk about that kind of team is kind of like searching for the atom. It is such a special accomplishment when you can bring together the kind of talent that's selfless,
yes,
and yet know the strengths are. Big egos from the standpoint of they want to win, mm-hmm. but small egos in terms of what they're preparing to sacrifice in order to win, and a coach that embraces them both as a mentor, as a tactician, but also almost in a paternalistic way, Ryan, because they're young like you.
Doesn't it make Jokic look ridiculous too, to put like Jokic and put this team to 7 with 4.5 players, and there's like that makes them look crazy. I think it helps Jokic's case a little bit there.
It does. I read a great article about that this week that puts exactly what you just said, Ryan, into again using the term historical context, that Jokic with that wounded, short-handed team was able to take this Thunder team to 7. It's unthinkable, Avery.
Right, it is. And, full credit to Aaron Gordon. I mean, he probably shouldn't have played in that game, but that goes to show the heart.
He's a warrior, yeah.
But yeah, Nikola Jokic. Well, people always say, maybe he shouldn't have been the MVP, or maybe he shouldn't have had as many MVPs. Like, what are you watching? That guy probably deserves like 5 more MVPs.
100%. I mean, you could have, as phenomenal as the season was, and as easy as it is to justify the MVP going to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Which he deserved this year, yes.
He deserved it, but so did Jokic. If there was ever a year you could have given a co-MVP out, this was the year.
If you put Jokic, quick one, if you put Jokic in like those Steve Nash years or that Derrick Rose MVP year, it's not even close.
Oh my gosh.
Like it's a borderline consensus.
Embarrassing, embarrassingly distant from.
So that's why all MVPs are not created the same at all.
No, exactly. No, but I think it also points to the way the NBA's greatness continues to evolve. That more and more better players are coming about, and we're going to dive into that because we're going to do a deep dive now into a little bit on the Wolves and what they're going to have to do in the offseason. But I want to spend the bulk of the next segment on the Thunder themselves and why they're such a special team. Avry, Ryan, and I are glad you're with us here this morning on the Basketball Show on your sports leader, Sports 1440. We'll be right back after these messages. My hat is off. If I had a hat like you did, Avry, my hat would be taken off right now to our young controller right now because he just picked
one of my mom's favorite songs. So
it's one of the great one-hit wonders of the late '60s.
Did he have any other songs?
No, he was a one-hit wonder, and that what a great song. So good on you, youngster. So that'll be the last compliment you get today. But that was
It'll make
fantastic.
up for the 3 disses earlier, so we're at -2.
That soothed the rift. Ryan, I need you to give us you got to be a timekeeper now because we have to have a hard stop on this. 5 minutes on the Wolves. Then we're going to do 10 on the Thunder. Wolves off season. You've got Julius Randle, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and Naz Reid, all in situations now where they have to make choices. And the Wolves have to make choices. And they're already in the second tier of the salary cap. So they've got hard choice. And they have an ownership change. A-Rod and I forget his partner, who are taking over from
Glenn Taylor.
From Glenn Taylor, longtime Glenn Taylor. And what sounds like was a bit of an ugly takeover. But now the Wolves, long suffering, being from the Twin City area, family and friends, galore down there, heavily involved in the basketball culture in Minnesota for many, many years, and a deep, deep soft spot and love for the Twin City area. Long suffering does not even begin to describe the experience of the Minnesota Timberwolves fans. So now, 2 years in a row, they get to the conference finals. And I was just talking to one of my brothers on my way to the show this morning who lives in the Twin Cities. And he said, now we're at the point where we're complaining that we expected to get to the NBA finals. We're disappointed. Minnesota fans, by the way, aren't that particularly good. But now they've got.
You're going to get some hate back home just saying Minnesota fans are not.
I've said that many times. I have no problem. And my friends say it too. Fair weather. But.
And there's not a lot of fair weather.
No, there isn't.
Literally and figuratively.
Absolutely. That is not an untruth. Although today, 85 out on Lake Minnetonka, no breeze.
What's that in Celsius for the people listening?
85 would be around 30.
30, okay.
Or low 30s. So, anyway, back to the Wolves. All right, Avry.
Yes.
Rudy Gobert is probably someone they're not going to be able to deal because I can't see a lot of teams that are going to want to, at his age and stage of life, for the money that they're paying, are going to do a deal for Rudy that would be beneficial to the Wolves. Or am I wrong? What are your thoughts?
I don't see, because here's the thing. At least, yes, he's a strong defensive player, great shot blocker. But we've seen again, time and time again, in these big playoff series, he doesn't deliver. That's gonna be a really big thing for moving him or a trade like that. So you might be stuck with him. I mean, hopefully he figures it out. You mentioned Paul, he's older, but winning in the postseason is a massive thing. You can win all the defensive awards. You can be the great shot blocker. But if you can't get it done in the postseason, you're going to have a tough time finding a team that really wants him going into, say, a West Final anywhere else.
It's good, and I agree. And I think a lot of teams would love him. They just don't love the contract. And I think that's the biggest obstacle to finding a place for him. But Ryan, I'm going to go to you because I think Chris Finch is a phenomenal coach. And I've read this many, many times. Most pundits think he's an offensive genius. Now, I don't think they move the ball enough. I think they pull Randle out too far away from the basket. It works against most teams. It just doesn't work against the elite of the elite defensively in the league in OKC. Do you think that the Wolves, Ryan, could do a better job of utilizing Rudy by putting him not so much away from the basket, setting screens, but being close to the basket, either for a drop-in on the interior or for going after offensive rebounds? Do you think, in other words, they can better utilize Rudy Gobert?
I think so. And You mentioned he makes a lot of money.
Yes, he does.
Yep.
$35 million next year. Their cap sheet in general is $192 million committed next year. That's if Julius Randle picks up his player option, which I'm actually not totally convinced he will. Naz Reid's going to decline his player option for $15 million, but he's going to get paid a lot more than that in the open market. I'd guess 25 to 30 a year, easy. They also have Jaden McDaniels locked up for 5 more years for $133 million combined. Anthony Edwards is going to get $244. They owe Rudy Gobert $115 million still. And they have to pay Nickeil Alexander-Walker a little bit more, too. He makes $4 million this year, nothing on the books next year. The team's going to get very expensive very quickly. And that's kind of, I think, the fallacy that a lot of people have with these young teams. Even the Thunder. You're going to notice the next couple of years, and the Celtics now, it's one thing to draft talent and grow it up, but then you have to pay every single person what they deserve on the open market. The Timberwolves running into that problem next year. The Celtics are doing it right now. And the Thunder will eventually run into that problem, too, where everyone is too good, and you're going to run into some financial problems. With Gobert, you mentioned unmovable contract. I would agree on that. He had a little bit better down the stretch in the postseason, but there's some contracts here that's going to be tough to bring in, regardless of play style. And in a pinch, or in a finch, if I may, they're going to be able to bring some of the guys back for one more year.
We have reached a new high or a new low, depending on how you look at that comment. I'll go with the high. All right, so Avery, you're the GM. You've got to make a choice. You can keep 2 out of 3. Naz Reid, Julius Randle, or Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Who do you keep?
Price in mind, too. Right? They're not all at the same price, right?
No, they're not all at the same price, but you can find a way to keep 2 of them, even though they're at different prices.
Man, that's a tough question. If I can fancy GM, I want to keep Nickeil. I do think you want to keep Nickeil on this roster. And I do want to keep Jaden McDaniels. Like, those are 2 guys I want to live by in Minnesota, who I think you have a great chance of possibly winning with going forward.
Okay, but I didn't ask about McDaniels. I asked about Julius Randle and Naz Reid.
Jaden's not going anywhere.
Sorry, no. Oh, man. You know what? I'll keep Julius Randle. I will keep Julius Randle. I do think Minnesota's the best spot for him, so I will keep Julius Randle in the roster as well with Nickeil. So
interesting, Ryan. Which 2?
I would agree. I think Naz Reid is an incredibly talented player. I think Julius Randle drove them to the conference final at points. Him and Anthony Edwards took turns. Naz Reid didn't do that. He was more of a contributing player. Julius Randle was ready to take the mantle at any moment. Actually, while we're at it, Nickeil Alexander-Walker did too.
Yep.
He also was driving the ship for a game, but still, it's more than Naz Reid did.
But meaningful contributions in multiple games throughout the playoffs. Like better. Like, I think the rap always on Alexander Walker was really streaky and inconsistent.
Yeah.
2 points one game, 16 the next, 5 the next. I mean, all over the place.
You can afford him to do that when he's like the 8th guy. Like, we just need you for one game, and if you want to just vacation the rest, that's okay.
But he seemed ready for prime time. He seems to be. He seems to be ready.
You need guys. You need guys that can just show up in a random game 5 in the second round, and that's what he did.
To me, the one to keep. That you have to keep is Alexander Walker for this reason. Not that he's the best of the 3,
he's Canadian,
but he's going to be cheapest, and still has a real upside. Here's the dilemma: Reid versus Randle. Naz Reid as a starter. Naz Reid wants to be a starter. He doesn't want to be a 6th man anymore. Is he good enough to be the starter? Absolutely. He's only 26. Randle's 30 and has had a lot of injury problems. I would keep Naz Reid and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and I'm probably 100% wrong on it.
I support it. His name's Reid. I'm a proud supporter.
And he doesn't play for the Sacramento Kings. But I think to me it's really a tough choice because I love Julius Randle, and I think he was really good for the Wolves this year once they figured it out. He was essential. But I do put a little bit of an asterisk not against him, but about his performances. They were against L.A., who can't guard that well, and a Golden State Warriors team without Steph Curry. That's where he thrived, and he had one good game against the Thunder, and 2 good games. Yeah. 1 good game, 1 decent game, and 3 bad to so-so games. So Reid wasn't that good. It wasn't that good throughout, but I wonder how he would be if you played him all the time.
I don't know. It'll be a tough one. We probably should push to the Thunder now.
Yep. Thank you.
Stop.
I was going to ask if you hard stop. Okay. You're listening to the Basketball Show on Sports 1440. Avery, Ryan, and Paul with you on this, what's going to be a warm Saturday morning in the capital city.
And in Minnesota, apparently.
In Minnesota as well. Absolutely. Head to the lakes. OKC, you had made the mention earlier, and Avery, I'd like your opinion on this. Sam Presti is an absolute genius. Now, is that completely because he's a genius? You have to say yes, because of the way he constructed this small market team and has stockpiled draft picks, drafted wisely, traded wisely. I think a little bit, nobody would have thought Gilgeous-Alexander, when he came over from the Clippers, was going to be this guy. But he is, and that makes him a genius. Just like Missouri was a genius when he brought in Kawhi Leonard for the 1 year when we got a championship in Toronto. But the Thunder, they're not going to be able to afford the talent that they presently have long term. But they have all these draft picks. So if you're the GM in Sam Presti, how are you looking forward, like in the draft? Like, what position would you draft, anticipating that you might lose a particular player a year or two from now?
Oh, that's a really, really tough one.
Yeah, I know it is. Yeah.
Man, and call me Sam Presti, I would compliment to him. But honestly, man, I'm thinking, looking at center most likely, because I think Isaiah Hartenstein's a guy you might eventually lose one day. He's someone who I've loved since he was in New York. So I look for a big to see if you lose Hartenstein. That's a guy who I think you may want to replace eventually. But in terms of shooting guard, you already got SGA. You're good there. You're good with guys like Lou Dort. I'm looking for another big, possibly, because I think you want to keep those two. You want to keep the two bigs. You want to keep someone with Chet. So if you lose Isaiah Hartenstein, you want to bring someone else to complement Chet as a big on that team, I think.
Chet, Williams, and SGA are untouchable, right, Ryan?
Yes. And we touched on this, like, teams getting way too expensive and impossible to keep together. And I think that's kind of the brilliance of Presti, keeping those picks together, because keeping the picks in the future on board. He's going to be hesitant to trade most of those picks. Like, he'll trade some of them to upgrade the team, obviously. But having those rookie contracts you can intermingle in with your team, just salary-wise, works out beautifully. If you look at some of the rookie like, for example,
that's true.
Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren are both on rookie contracts.
There's a gradation in his salary structure that allows him flexibility that no other teams have had to sell their souls to get their talent.
All long-term teams have a rookie contract that they can build around as it comes along. And, well, Shea had a rookie contract for a while, too, they were building around. And now, as they get more and more rookies in, like Casey Wallace is going to be on another 3 more years after this.
Yes.
They're going to have people, they're going to have extra cap space they can give to Chet when he's up, to J-Dub when he's up.
Nothing is.
That's for the analytic nerds in the basement right there.
Paul's favorite.
You can head down with the trolls. This is something I thought of the other day, and again, I'm speculating on something. Is there an abundance of riches here with all that you have and all the potential that you possess? What do you do with it all? Like, how do you keep this team cohesive? Like, they love each other right now. Now, I've played on teams where when you're winning everything, the sun shines brightly, you all get along great, everything's going your way. Now, I don't see this team having the character that if things go a bit sideways, I think they dig in. I think they have that kind of chemistry and culture right now. How do you maintain that kind of chemistry and culture with the abundance of riches that you have? I think that's going to be interesting. And as we're seeing right now with the Indiana Fever, you are 1 or 2 injuries away from the skies darkening and everything changing. The fact that the Thunder are so youthful and finally healthy, because Holmgren's had his share of injury problems. I mean, things can change on just on the twist of an ankle or or a knee being torn, or in the case of Jason Tatum, popping an Achilles.
Well, I think that's why they have that stockpile draft picks and these young guys ready to step in. If they have that culture breeded from day one of the season and everyone's buying in, like staying ready, even when you're not playing, staying ready. When people go down or people leave and people get traded, they have the next guys to step in. Even guys like Nikola Topic, they drafted him. He was supposed to be one of the top picks this year, and then he was injured, so he didn't get drafted high. But he's like still picked 9 or 10, I think, or 12. He's not going to be a superstar, but he'll be ready to jump in next year with the 3 other first-round picks they have next year as well. And I'm not doubting their scouting department. They drafted Russell Westbrook. They drafted James Harden. They drafted Kevin Durant. They drafted Shea. Not Shea, but they traded for Shea when he was somewhat low on stock, and then they drafted Chet, J-Dub, Casey Wallace.
For the last 15 years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Alexej Pokusevski.
And it's pretty scary though with OKC. They can just plug and play different guys and draft well and still be a near 70-win ball club. Like, that's a scary thing. Like, no matter what they do, that OKC team right now is still going to be easily over 60 wins going forward for the next couple of years here.
They are. And like when you talk about an abundance of riches, they possess them. They seem to have the right front office, the right coaching staff to manage this success, because that's going to be their challenge. How do you manage this success? They have, I think one of the great things that has changed in the NBA over the last decades is you look at players on the roster 7 through 12 or 7 through 14, the depth of talent now on most NBA rosters is so much better than it used to be, because even in the 90s, in the Jordan era, once you got deep into the bench, there was a huge, significant drop-off in terms of talent. That's one thing the Timberwolves have also moving forward. They have a lot of good young talent sitting on the bench that might be able to contribute. Like Shannon came in and was impactful in a couple of games. That might help them as it relates to the Thunder, as you guys are pointing out. They're positioned to do really well no matter what kind of happens right now, except for, as you noted, at the big, either Chet or Hartenstein go down. That will have a big impact, because they would be really difficult to replace, because when they're humming, you have the power of Hartenstein and you've got the savvy of Holmgren, who was playing in front of his hometown fans in Minneapolis, again plugging Minneapolis, Minnehaha Academy, with Jalen Suggs from Gonzaga. So I think the Thunder are just in a very unique position. Final question before we go to the next segment, talking about the Stingers, and we'll have to make the answers quick. Avery, can Indiana or New York run with the Thunder in the NBA Finals?
I want to say yes, but I don't think so. I think no matter who comes out of the Eastern Conference, that is OKC in 5 or 6 at the most.
Ryan?
I'm going to say similar to Minnesota, maybe one more, 5 or 6 OKC wins, and it's blowouts in 3 of the 4 wins OKC has.
Okay. Yeah.
Like blowout is in 15 or more.
Yeah. No. And I mean, they've set a record for blowouts in the NBA playoffs. So, I mean, the records that they have broken are staggering. Like, when you really start matching them up historically, it's
one of the greatest
staggering.
teams ever. Right?
It really is. And you know what? They are one of the greatest teams ever. And to have this young team peaking at the right time like this, yeah, you just never really seen this before like this. Great discussion, guys. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the Edmonton Stingers and the CEBL. And we have a couple of the Stingers that are going to come on our program. And Avery, I want to thank you so much. Tell people how they can follow you on Twitter and where they can follow your great work.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Avry, A-V-R-Y. You can find also my work on averysports.com, talking a lot of basketball, be it NBA work, CBL, all kind of hoops kind of stuff on averysports.com.
And Avery does all sports really, really well. Avery, thanks so much for being with us today.
Of course, Paul. Of course, Ryan.
All right, we'll take this break. We'll be back. We'll talk Stingers. Welcome back to the Basketball Show. I'm your host, Paul Sir. I am pleased to be joined by the leading scorer for the Edmonton Stingers, Sean East II. Sean, how are you today?
I'm doing good, man. Just happy to be in Edmonton and enjoying the beautiful day outside. But more pleased with getting a dub last night.
It was a great game, and when I was watching the game, Sean, your leadership characteristics I find really intriguing, because you're so capable at scoring in a variety of ways. You got a great penetration game, a great mid-range pull-up game. You shoot the three really well, both off the catch and shoot and off the bounce. So you can score in a variety of ways. But what I notice, and tell me if I'm observing how you think the game, you're trying to pick your spots where you know you have to score to give your team a lift, but you also want to make sure that you get your teammates involved and keep them involved and active and feeling part of it. Is that an accurate way to describe how you play?
Yes. Always. I've I started out my career, early on just being a pass first guard, controlling the game and doing doing the things that a point guard needs to do. But just over the years, situations have caused me to be a scorer and kind of, take over games here and there. But that's exactly what I'll try to do is, score when I need to, when the team needs me to, or we're in a drought, but also get everybody involved, get the ball moving, get the ball flowing, and, having some fun out there.
Well, it certainly looks like you're having fun. You have a very intense, relaxed demeanor, which almost sounds like a contradiction in terms, but you really seem to have a calm about you, but still play with a lot of intensity. Where did that what I would call confidence come from?
It's been instilled from me early, just from AAU coaches, high school coaches, college coaches, just my whole career, just never getting too high, never getting too low, especially as a point guard. There's going to be ups and downs throughout the game. It's going to be runs. It's going to be droughts. So someone on the floor has to stay level-headed to, keep the team and just everybody involved and making sure we're focused. We can't, get mad about this and not be able to move on to the next, and just trying to keep everyone, in the right space to, hopefully get that dub.
And get the dub you did. You're 2-3 now. You have a rematch with a very strong Vancouver team. Mm-hmm. Talk about the loss to Vancouver, how that helped you prepared for Brampton, and how that is going to carry forward in preparing for the game this Friday night against the Vancouver Bandits here in Edmonton.
I don't think we took a step back, but after that loss, we had to look ourselves in the mirror and, remember that feeling and just get back to the small things that we wanted to start this whole season about. That's just doing things on the defensive end first, taking care of business there, being tough, being gritty, and letting that lead to our offense. And, just having fun out there is mainly the big key that we always emphasize, is having fun and doing it with, a smile on our faces.
Sean East II is joining me here on the basketball show as we talk about the Edmonton Stingers and Sean's journey to Edmonton. Sean, talk about your high school career. You had a very interesting high school experience that, of course, prepared you for Division I and eventually a pro career. But talk about how important what that high school experience was like and how important that was in your development as a basketball player.
I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, and I went across the bridge to New Albany, Indiana, which is 20 minutes away. And it was a very different experience. Indiana basketball, they take it so serious over there, and it's a big deal. Ever since my freshman year, I played in front of 3,000 to 4,000 plus every night, sold out crowds. So it just prepared me for, just to be in intense games, what fans are actually like and what they, expect from you on a nightly basis. They want to see a show. They want entertainment. So it's just like always being ready, always being mentally prepared, and just also knowing how to carry yourself on and off the floor, because it's, never know who you can bump into or, come across as fans, because it's just they love you out there. And then when they see you off the court, you gotta have have that same mentality.
So Sean, after this really unique high school experience, you go on to play in junior college, and then you go to a couple of different Division I schools. 2 questions. Number one, why transfer? That I'm always curious about that. I'm very experienced with, I'm very familiar with the Division I experience and how things go, how things change, and that it's actually a very complicated world, very complicated, challenging world. And so talk about your experiences and the decisions that you made that now in hindsight compose your total Division I experience.
I always feel like it was just meant to be. It wasn't like no specific reason or what was going on or anything under the table. It was just, that was the way I needed to move, and it just each step in my career, helped me become a different player, a different person. Each coach that I, came across, affected me in different ways and taught me things that I need to know for all, like just for on the court, off the court. It's just been throughout that whole process, I've learned so much and, taking so many things with me that I actually needed all of those stops.
And you are part of the group of athletes that had to navigate your way through the COVID challenges as well. And I think for anybody who isn't familiar with how important or how significant and impactful that was, boy, oh boy, did that ever throw a wrench into so many careers, into so many experiences because of what COVID was doing to athletes, to programs, to schools, everything that all added into the complexity of just playing basketball.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I remember when it first hit, I was at UMass University of Massachusetts. We was in the A-10 tournament first round at the Barclays Center. And we're on the court about to tip the ball off. And I'm on the floor. Everybody's all 10 players on the floor. They're about to tip it up, and then a ref comes from the scoreboard and goes to the middle ref and whispers in his ear. And at that point, I knew, okay, that was it. We didn't even get to tip the ball up.
Really?
And that was the first time COVID had hit. And after that, even going into my next year, I had transferred. You couldn't go on visits. You couldn't, you know what I mean? So it was just you had to just go off phone calls and, so many things. It was just that took an impact. Also, you had to trust that it was going to be good just off phone calls and, word to word. It was different, but it was good, man. I can't complain, and it taught me so much, and I'm grateful for everything.
I'm talking with Sean East, the second leading scorer, not just for the Stingers, but one of the leading scorers in the CEBL here on the Basketball Show. So, Sean, college is over. You are looking at a pro career. You played in Romania this past year. I believe that was your first year playing basketball professionally overseas. How was that experience for you?
It was different. I mean, I loved it, honestly. I mean, I was only over there for 2 months, but it was amazing, just going all the way across the world to play basketball and see different things and see different cultures, the way people live. It was just totally different. And the living situations was crazy. I loved it. I had a penthouse and walked both sides. It was just you couldn't. It's amazing what the ball can do for you, and it was a great experience. But that ended, and I'm happy to be here in Canada and in this lovely city.
Well, we're happy to have you here, by the way, not just because of the 23 a game, but also because of the way that I think you carry yourself, and I think you're really establishing yourself with our local fans as someone who they can relate to, because you play with joy. You're you talk about it. You're very present when you're playing. You're very mindful about your teammates. And I think you're very conscientious about the public. So here you are in the CEBL. It's a bit of a unique league, time of year that you're playing FIBA rules in North America with the Elam ending or the target score. When you had the opportunity, when you got the call about coming and playing for Edmonton and made the decision to come, what are the goals and outcomes that you're looking for from this experience, Sean?
I really didn't know too much about the league. I heard a few things. I had a few friends play in this league, but ultimately it was Jordan, Coach Jordan Baker, who really, he FaceTimed me and we talked, for 2 or 3 weeks, and we had great connection, good conversations, and it was just he played himself, and I knew he cared about this city and about the team and wanted to see the program succeed. So that's what ultimately kind of led me to just yeah, come on, let's do this. And but once we got that out, taken care of, it was all about just coming here, winning games, and try to bring a championship to, back to the city that they had, back when he was playing.
That is the majority of my interview with Sean. You can listen to the entire interview on our podcast. We'll have a separate podcast segment for the Edmonton Stingers after the show is over today. Ryan will post that along with our Hour 1 and Hour 2 complete versions of the show. But I really think it's great if you listen to Sean speak about more about his experience that he's having here in the CEBL. Sean last night did not disappoint. 27 points, led the Stingers in scoring, even though the Stingers fell a bit short against a very strong Vancouver Bandits team. But we're having some trouble reaching our guest, Mr. Rhooms. So we're going to take a break right now, and we're going to try to fix that. And when we come back, we hope to have Aaron Rhooms on the show, and we'll talk a bit about the Stingers and some more NBA action as well. You're listening to The Basketball Show on your sports leader, Sports 1440.